People do not adjust your internet. Yes, this is not a video about the WWE. I am actually here to talk about Lucha Underground Season 2, Episode 1. Now, before I talk about the episode, I have to give some context. I watched very little of Season 1. I started watching it, but then I didn't really have a chance to keep up weekly, and by the time I wanted to, there were so many episodes to watch. I felt a little overwhelmed. So before Season 2, I watched this recap video that they hosted with Matt Stryker that was around 8 minutes to basically detail some of the things that happened. So that was my context. So there are some things that I'm not too sure about. If you watch Lucha Underground, definitely help me out. Fill me in on any details that you think I may be missing as I talk about in this episode. So I want to actually go in chronological order since, once again, I'm not too familiar with everything. But overall, impressions, amazing. I love me some Lucha Underground. I deeply regret not watching Season 1 in its entirety. I got to go back and watch a couple of the matches. But in here, we start by seeing Vampiro. He had a match, which I saw some highlights of, with Pentagon Jr., very violent affair, and apparently he was a little messed up after that match, so he requires some medication. But what matters is Vampiro's in there, Matt Stryker picked him up, they're buddies, they're doing the announcing thing, and that leads us to the next thing. Katrina is now in charge of the temple. Dario Cueto left in Season 1, looking to do something different, which we'll talk about at the end of this review. But yeah, Katrina is in charge. Fenix comes in. Fenix is the Gift of the Gods champion. That is the best name for a championship I have ever heard in my life. But they're talking there. Fenix wants the Lucha Underground Championship. He wants all of that gold. But then Katrina, who's aligned directly with Muertes, obviously isn't going to make that very easy for him. I love the cinematography in all of this. WWE is a wrestling show. Ring of Honor is a wrestling show. TNA is a wrestling show. Lucha Underground is a wrestling cinematic experience, and that is easily the best way to describe it. Now, getting directly to the action, the first match, King Cuerno versus Fenix for the Gift of the Gods Championship. And on the very first episode of the second season, we get a title change. King Cuerno is your new champion. Now, keep in mind that while this was happening, Muertes was seeing all of the action throughout the entire episode, and I love that. You have your champion not backstage, not doing any of that stuff. He is sitting right there just to scare the living bejesus out of everybody. King Cuerno wins with this pseudo spike tombstone pile driver that looked dangerous. I hope Fenix is alive. He should be, otherwise they wouldn't air that. But I enjoyed this match. Fenix is ridiculous. This was my first real time watching him wrestle, and I know that a lot of people love him, and I can see why. He did some springboard drop kicks that were crazy, the arm drags, the springboard cutter, which he then turned into a dragon sleeper. Lucha style is not necessarily my thing. I like the less is more approach, but when these guys are that good at what they do, you got to let it slide, right? So King Cuerno is your new champion. Up next, we see the combo of Son of Havoc, Angelico and Ivelisse. Angelico is the guy that I've seen so many GIFs online of Lucha Underground. You know, the crazy dives all over the arena. This guy's ridiculous. These three are sort of the odd family, and they want a shot at the Lucha Underground Championship. And Katrina basically says, yeah, but you guys are going to have to sort of fight each other. So we get treated to a triple threat match between three people that actually like each other. And Ivelisse, female competitor, taken directly on male competitors. This is a thing that, if this is your first time hearing about Lucha Underground, it may shock you a little bit. Female and male competitors are in the same thing. They are not treated as different divisions. And Ivelisse won. That is the thing. You think that, well, you have Angelico, Son of Havoc. Angelico's probably going to win, do some crazy flip stuff. No, Ivelisse got him with the Magistral Cradle for the victory. Representing Puerto Rico, yeah. There was the knee right at the beginning of the match that Angelico gave to Ivelisse. That thing was devastating. I know, the whole thigh slapping, but wrestling is about believing, about doing things so well that you really think somebody's dead. because the move was so impactful. And what I loved about this is that you could tell that the audience was really invested into these three characters, because when Ivelisse won, the crowd erupted. Anywhere else, you would see the crowd maybe going like, oh, come on, that is unrealistic. Only in Lucha Underground can you have these two fine wrestlers lose to a female wrestler that is great in her own merits. But, you know, the whole logic thing sometimes may not apply here, but she won, and it's great. Now, you think to yourself, she's going to get that title opportunity maybe in a couple of weeks, what's going to happen there? No, that's the main event for tonight's show, actually. And to make matters worse, the Disciples of Death, I believe is their name, come out, they take out Son of Havoc, they take out Angelico, so it's Ivelisse 1-on-1 against Mil Muertes by herself. Lucha Underground Championship match. That was amazing in its own merit, because by default you think, well, Ivelisse, there's no way she can win. She just wrestled a match. So then you take out her allies, and then you're just doing it on the same show. Like, wow, that is freaking amazing. I know I keep saying all these hyperboles, but it's true. Only in Lucha Underground does this type of stuff apply. Anywhere else, if this happened in WWE, people would just be complaining left and right. Let's be perfectly honest about that. But in here, once again, it's accepted. And that word acceptance, is something that is so synonymous with Lucha Underground, because you accept the fact that this show is way more over the top than the WWE was in the early 90s. Of course, the tone here is way more adult themed, but it's over the top regardless. So Mil Muertes, without a shadow of a doubt, retains the championship. There were a couple of key points, though, where people almost thought that Ivelisse was going to win. Funnily enough, comparing this to WWE, the only time that happened was in a chamber match with Santino Marella. The magnitude of difference here is simply ridiculous. At one point of the match, Katrina did take a spear by Mil Muertes, and after the match, she was perfectly okay, which I did find that a little weird. You just got speared by the Lucha Underground champion. I get that you're an authority figure, you're almighty, but you know, them ribs got to be hurting. Do something there, because that was a little weird, but something that can easily be overlooked, because once again, Lucha Underground lives in its own location. There's a reason it's called a temple, right? So the show, you think it's about to end. Ivelisse is about to take an even bigger beating post-match. So Prince Puma comes out and makes the save. And you think then, well, that's the second ending, right? No, Pentagon Jr. comes out and breaks the champion's arm. He's back. I'm wondering, I honestly don't know what they're going to do with this right now, because you just broke the arm of the champion. I don't know if they're going to maybe justify, like, he didn't fully break it, it's just torn, so he's out of action temporarily, because on the very first episode that's happening, now what? Does he forfeit the championship? It's not like he's going to be able to wrestle just fine in a month, right? Although this is wrestling and this is Lucha Underground, so anything is possible. But I am super intrigued that all of these people are injected into the very first episode, and I get why they did it too. For somebody like me, I've seen Angelico in a lot of GIFs online, people retweeting things from Prince Puma, Pentagon Jr., and they just happen to be the guys that they showcase on the first episode. So very well done, because if you haven't seen this before, I think you got a pretty good taste. Plus, also adding Ivelisse, and not one, but two matches against male competitors, lets people know, if they're watching for the first time here in the second season, that Lucha Underground is not like most wrestling shows. It is simply not. It is something that you have to disconnect yourself from, not just belief or not just the reality versus fake nature of wrestling. You have to disconnect yourself from the WWE universe. And I'm not knocking WWE at all by saying that. I'm just saying it is completely different. There's NXT, there's WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, and Lucha Underground is just nowhere in there. And after all that, my thought was, okay, so that was the conclusion, right? Not just the match, not just Prince Puma, not just Dario Cueto. Okay, what's this guy doing? a little bit earlier on the show, there was a group of young studs that were looking for a temple, but the location was way farther than the temple we know and love. And now we sort of get a hint that the reason that Dario Cueto is not in the traditional temple that we're used to is because he's working on his own thing. They didn't reveal it, but if you look at the outside, it's like one of these things that you see where they transport a lot of merchandise overseas, but they didn't pan out completely, not like the traditional temple where we get to see way more of that. So I am intrigued as to what they're going to do. Is he going to try to build his own thing to then compete with the Lucha Underground temple? Is this where Rey Mysterio is going to be injected into? I am so looking forward to watching more of Lucha Underground, and I really want to get your feedback also regarding this first episode, whether you're somebody that's consumed all of Season 1 or this is your first time watching Lucha Underground. Drop a comment with your review of Lucha Underground Season 2, Episode 1. So as progressively I watch more Lucha Underground, I may either review episodes or just give a monthly overall recap of what I think is happening in Lucha Underground. And if you want to see all of this for that matter, because if you're already subscribed to the channel, you consume that WWE goodness. I want to know what you want, because I want this to happen. So like, subscribe, join the family, check out all the sexy jazz that we have here on the channel, and we will be back with tons more right here on Byte That. I want to go to the temple. Seems nice.